Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 52nd, I hope that's right, Stately Office Hours. This is where us, the team at Stately, talk to you about what's going on with Stately Studio and with XState, and give you demos, get your feedback, answer your questions. Oh, we have so much to share with you this week. It's what we've been talking about for the last few weeks, few months, few years. We're really excited. Let's start off, as we always do, with introductions to the team who are here with us today. I'm Laura, and I do advocacy for Stately. Next up, David.
I'm David, founder of Stately, creator of XState, and I'm here at React Advanced London right now. I'm in the speaker
It's
room.
very exciting. In
Yeah.
my time zone as well, which is very useful.
Just a short train drive. Short.
Yeah, you can't get the train across the Irish Sea, but we could try. And Fazad.
Hey, I'm Farzad, just an engineer, official problem creator at Stately, I guess.
Official.
Yeah, I'm the guy who makes problems between the design and the development departments.
That is not true at all. You solve far more problems than you create. And Kevin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin, and I'm doing super fun engineering stuff here at Stately.
And Nick.
I'm Nick. I do product design.
And last but absolutely not least, Anders.
Well, I'm Anders. I develop software here at Stately.
It's such a great team. I'm really excited. I'm sorry that we don't have the rest of the team here today because they've put so much hard work into what we want to share with you today. But we will drag them on to future office hours. That is a promise. So, David, do you want to talk a little bit about Stately Studio 1.0, which we launched this week?
Sure. Yeah, just a couple of days ago, the result of months of hard work, and of course, having a few new team members who you see all below me right here. We worked really hard to release Stately Studio 1.0, and so our biggest focus for this is team collaboration. And so with that, we have teams. Of course, you could create teams, add people to them, assign roles to them, so they could edit machines, view them, share them, create new projects, etc. And also just capture to what am I trying to say? You could set the different visibility settings of these projects as well, which has been something that a lot of people have been asking about. And so with that, we also have a subscription that you could do. This is Stately Studio Pro or Stately Pro. I don't know. We'll talk to the marketing team, which doesn't exist yet. But anyway, the editor, as you have been using it during the beta period, will remain free for public projects, individual projects. Just that nothing has changed. It's exactly the same. Well, I lied. The one thing that has changed is we added a bunch of new features. Our entire team has been working hard on adding new features to the editor. Farzad has been adding context and assign actions. And if you look at our previous office hours, you'll see a bunch of these features in there as well. We're working on adding more export options, which also was added recently. You could now export to JavaScript and TypeScript. We're improving our VS Code extension. We're just making a lot of things better. We do have a release blog post where we list out a lot of the things that we've been working on. So I definitely encourage you to read it and check out what's new. Oh, and of course, we have a new coat of paint. It does look different, and that's on purpose. We want to make it easier to use and easier on the eyes and really be a design that you're going to be willing to share with your entire team.
Absolutely. It is making it the ultimate tool for teams to use. Now, of course, if you want to try it out, you can go to stately.ai/editor. I think that's the best URL to jump straight in right away, right now. And if any of you have any questions that you want to ask us about the studio, we're going to start demoing stuff in a minute. And so if you have anything in particular that you want us to show or explain how to do, now will be a great time to do that. Wow, we have so many comments already. Thank you, folks. It's really nice for you to show up. Cedric says, hello, guys. Congrats for the release. So happy to see that. Aren't we all?
Thanks, Cedric.
And hello, JR. John says we've improved the VS Code extension about 10 times today. That is the release cycle that's going on right now for sure. Cedric has a bug. Oh, by the way, I've tried to copy paste into the description on VS Code extension, but it's not working. We'll make sure we file that one.
We have a
And
fix for that already.
Yes.
And most of these problems rise from the fact that it's embedded in an iframe right now, and we're working on bundling the editor into the extension that will fix all of these at once.
which also
Yay.
means that the extension is going to work offline. So that's coming
Yes.
soon too.
Eric says, very good question, Eric. As someone who primarily uses the VS Code extension locally, what's the value proposition of moving, that's kind of not moving, to the studio? So kind of going from using it in the extension to using it on the web.
Yeah, so the studio, you could just think of it as the umbrella of everything. We have the editor, the registry, the VS Code extension, just all of these different parts, and a lot of future parts that are coming. The Stately Studio is about collaboration. So if you are collaborating on machines with teams, you want advanced sharing, privacy options, etc., and in the future a GitHub integration where you could use it with private projects. That's the main purpose of the Stately Studio. So for enabling collaboration. Other features we have coming soon are commenting, etc. And so for individual use and for just normal everyday use of your machines, you might not need to collaborate. And so of course you could do that for free. But once you get to working with teams, then that's where the actual real power features of the Stately Studio come in handy.
To add to what
Absolutely. Well,
David said, we're also working, like the things that we plan for future include some visual indicators on top of some special data types. For example, if you have a date in the context of your machine, you might get like a special panel to work on ranges or special validations on that specific data type that you don't get by looking at the code representation of your diagram. So you might get to use these sort of special features if you use a web studio.
absolutely. Eric asks, but if I want the canonical source of truth to be my file, not somewhere on your database, or so I'd think, in terms of using the studio on the web rather than in the extension.
Yeah, great question. So this, sorry, it's a bit loud here, but this goes more to the upcoming GitHub integration, where yes, the source of truth, if you want your machines to stay in your files, that's going to be totally fine. The VS Code extension is going to allow you to have the machine still stay in the source of truth, which is GitHub or Git, and just be able to share it a lot easier. So no, they're not going to be copied over to our database, and we anticipate that teams are going to want to either do things one way or the other way, which is creating them in the web editor, or maybe even doing a hybrid of both approaches.
I think Eric has trust issues, David.
That's okay, we'll
Hey,
talk to him.
if we don't have trust issues in tech today, then we're seriously doing something wrong. Everyone should be cautious. Right, let me share with you the there we go, that's the right button. Hey, here's the studio looking groovy. Now this is very much in its everything folded away view, and here this is actually a machine I made earlier to show you how to do descriptions. That's why it's called descriptions. And actually has a description of video player machine. I'm being a bit meta by switching it up here. And this is a very basic state machine, just showing what you might do with a video player, including having a nice image embedded inside of your description, which I think is pretty groovy. And also we've got, and I think David demoed this in a previous office hours, links as well. Markdown links are supported in our descriptions too. So seeing as I'm on a descriptions one, I may as well show you. I've got the transition selected right now. So I've just opened this groovy transition details panel. It's a lovely panel that you can open and close. And if we scroll down, we can see that we've just got markdown in this description field. And this is where we can enter all that in, and it will appear in here. Hope that text isn't too teeny tiny for the rest of you to see. Oh, wow. Things are being deployed so quickly that I actually have to refresh to update right now. So I shall do so. And let's see how quickly that goes. It should be nice and quick. Fantastic. And
Okay, nothing broke.
Nothing broke, of course not. And because we've just had an update in, it's just reminding me of my machine details, which is handy. So that's a little pop-up. So if you haven't got anything selected in the rest of the interface, this little, I guess you'd call it a chain. It's like a changing panel. It's contextual. That's the word. It's contextual. Sorry, Nick.
It's an inspector. Think of it as an inspector. Like whatever you have selected, it'll give you more information about that thing.
Perfect description. I shall make sure I use the term inspector from here on in as well. And so yeah, from here, the machine details, you can change the name of your machine and you can see a little bit of information about it, including the owner, how many states, how many transitions, and also what's this here? Oh, it's in a project. So one of the great other new features of the studio is if we open this little drawer here on the left, we have a list of the machines inside our project. And this is, I think, what David, you referred to as the project first view. That's how the editor works now.
Right. Yes.
And here I can switch between all of the little machines I've got. I say little because these are little machines. Not all machines are little, but mine are here. And these are all the machines I have in the Stately Studio Tutorial Machines project. So let me jump into, I've got, I think, a more exciting state chart in what is a state chart. Here we go. So I'm going to fit to content so you can see that. Oh, that works so well. And here, this is a slightly more complex state chart that has a parent state, child states. It's invoking an actor, and it has a final state, an after, delayed transition, initial state. You probably know the drill by now. And so that's an example of projects. Now, projects are shared amongst teams, or you can have your own individual projects as well. So if I go now to the Stately team, all that loaded so nice and quickly. This is a list of the projects that are currently shared inside of our Stately team. And these are our members. Oh, sorry, I'm now showing everyone's email addresses because of the pending invitations. In fact, Kevin, I'm going to cancel your invitation. I'm sorry, you're not allowed anymore.
I'm already down there.
That's actually because you're
the other me's in there. Yeah.
And you can see we've got a list. Everyone currently in our team is an owner or an admin. David is the owner of the team. And then we can see every other team member that has currently been invited. We can invite new members via their email address here. And we can also select at that point what their role might be. So you can invite people as another admin. And admins can do absolutely everything. They can create projects. They can make sure I'm getting this right. They can change people's roles. They can invite people. What else can they do, Kevin? Help me out.
Oh, they can actually change the name of the team. They can change settings related to, manage settings for the team, things like that.
Exactly. And an editor can do most of that. They can edit the projects and they can view them, of course. And then we have, last of all, viewers. And viewers are only able to view the projects, but they're not able to edit them. Did I miss anything there?
No, I think that's it. You got it.
Excellent. And so you can also, I'm an admin on this team. So I'm not sure that I can, oh, there we go. I can decide that I want to make Anders a viewer and that he can lose his admin privileges if I so wished. But I'm not going to. I think he's a fantastic contributor to our Stately team. And here's the Stately settings for the Stately team. It's a bit confusing because it's called Stately, and Stately there as well. But so I can edit the team name from here. And let me go into some projects again. Let me go into my, oh yes, another thing you can see here from this list of projects is that I have a project of Stately Studio Tutorial Machines which is public. So the 13 machines I have there are visible to everyone. When you go into the Discover view, you'll be able to find them via there as well. I have a Learn Stately Studio project, which is actually currently unlisted. I'm using this as drafts that I'm sharing with the team. Easy, they have to log in to see them. They can just access it via the link. So that's a really useful way of using unlisted projects. And unlisted projects mean that they won't be discoverable via the Discover. I'm assuming they won't be indexed by search engines. And that way you can have them unlisted. Is much like you would experience in other software. Yes, team projects are private by default. And finally, I have one private machine in my Learn Stately Studio project here. So that's only visible to the other members of the team and me. Nobody else can access it. There's no way of doing that. Right. What else do I need to show today? I'm going to show you the code view. So this is what David mentioned in his intro at the beginning. We now have the option to export as JSON, JavaScript, and TypeScript. Quite handy here, as you can see that the descriptions are also included in the object. And you can just copy that to the clipboard, paste it straight into your code, and ta-da, it will work. There's actually a tutorial that I gave, a little demo showing exactly how this works. And I will link that up in the video description. Before I go any further, I better go through some of these comments and questions. Cedric says, the demo with the picture is so cool. That's why I was asking for copy paste on VS Code extension, because I was jealous of the picture. It is really handy to be able to share these things. And Andre asks, how is pricing applied in relation to roles, i.e. do viewers need a paid account? And that's a good point for me to show you how to upgrade your account. So usually, I annoyingly do not have an account where I can do this right now, but there will be a button that appears in the header of the studio if you're using it as a free not paying user that says upgrade, and you will be able to follow that to go to, I'm just typing it in, window, stately.ai/pricing. Hopefully that will redirect. There we go. And so this will show you a version of this, except better laid out because I've got a very narrow browser right now. And so what we have with the professional level is that you can sign up per seat. And so your team can have a certain number of seats in it, and the viewers, editors, admin, and owners will take up all of those seats. So that makes sense, doesn't it, folks? Team.
Yeah, one thing to add. So in terms of like viewers or editors, so when you upgrade a subscription and you purchase seats, you are then able to create teams. So you will be the owner of those teams. You can invite people up to the number of seats that you have, but anybody who you've invited, those people do not necessarily need to have a pro subscription in order to join your team. So they can be invited as viewers or editors or even admins, and they don't have to have the subscription, but the owner of the team would.
Exactly that. Yeah. Which, I mean, that's exactly how you'd want it to work, isn't it? You don't want to have to tell someone to be able to pay and sign up in order to join your project. That just doesn't make sense. So we make it work the logical way. Let me resize this to make it a bit more readable. There we go. Other questions we have. Will we be able to discover for projects as well? Oh, that is a really good feature request, isn't it? Being able to discover on projects. It would be really cool to do that.
We should think about bringing it back. We actually had it before we changed it to machines the way it is now. You search for projects, and then we talked about it internally, and we decided that what you really wanted, at least for now, was to find a machine for maybe what you were looking for, like login logic or examples of machines. But we should definitely reconsider if we should be able to toggle searching for both. So it's on our radar. It's good input.
Yeah, I think so. Well, and this is a good reminder that if you do have any feature requests like that, if you go to statelyai.canny.io, this is where we have our roadmap. You can find everything, the features that we're working on right now, and you can also request new features and upvote existing requests for features. So that's basically the best way to get us to work on something. And we do check it regularly. We make sure that we update the issue if we've started working on it. And yeah, so it's we're keeping it in time roadmap. And that is the best place to add those feature requests. Eric says all revenue. Right, so what else shall I demo? Let me go find another fun machine. What have we got? Part of it is actually just showing you how, this is a broken machine because I was making new states in it. I should have to tidy that up later. This is a nice machine with parallel states that I made earlier. And so you can see if you select, this is it is a parent state, but it is also the machine itself. So we have state details here. And so this state details, using the inspector, you can see all of the information and changes you can make to the state details. And I could change it so that it's not a parallel state anymore, or parent of a parallel parent state anymore. So back to a normal state. Switch that back. I can add invoked actors. These were previously called invocations. We've made it called invoked actors. Same thing, slightly different name, making it clearer that you can use actors, and invocations is quite a scary term. So it certainly scared me. So we decided to make it a little easier to understand. This is where you can also add your entry actions. For example, what am I adding this to? The video player machine. So maybe I would do a play video entry action here, and the entry action will appear there. And the similar situation, but for exit actions, which will be fired when you exit a state. If you select a transition, the inspector will show you the transition details instead. All Groovy guards. I should get someone to help me demo some Groovy guards in a second. In fact, let's make a new machine.
Laura, when we work on a custom auto layout algorithm in the future, we need to do it as if you laid out the nodes on the canvas, because this is just perfect for my OCD.
Are they pretty? Do I spend a lot of time making? To be fair, I don't have to spend as much time making my machines look pretty as I used to, because the algorithm is so improved. Invocations does sound like witchcraft. Hey Fuzzer, will you walk me through when I might add a guard?
Sure. So if you want to do things conditionally, if you want to fire an event and transition between two states conditionally, that's when you need a guard. Let's say you are in a playing state of a video player, and you want to transition to the pause state if the video finishes. So this could be like a time update, like a video time update event. And in a guard, we can check if the the remaining time is 0, and we go to paused or stopped. Otherwise, we continue in the playing state and just update the timer or the count of seconds in the context. Kind of dumb
real plain
example.
text written there. No, it makes sense, and it shows very nicely this new guards layout. So what I did was I selected the event, and I used the plus transition button to add more guards, and you can see they can keep going forever, although you can't have multiple ones pointing to the same states. That wouldn't be a state machine. But you can, and just follows conditional logic, so you have if and else if.
Yeah, we can thank David while we're at it for the new designs of transitions and guards.
That was a collab between me and Nick. For sure.
Both.
Yeah, and the guards are also, the conditions are also labeled with the order as well, which I think is very helpful. And they're connected by this little dotted line, so it's clear that it's not the same as the ordinary transition as well. Hey, and if you have any feedback on these, we would love to hear it as well. If you find that this makes sense to you, or if you find it confusing in a particular way, please let us know. We're collecting your feedback all the time, and trying to improve things and make things as easy to use as possible. Groovy guards. Eric says, I noticed that always events no longer show the word always, just the guard if. Ah, that's interesting. I think that might be a bug. Is it?
It's not a bug. Right now it's intentional. I mean, if you think about flowcharts, you have those diamonds and they have if this, otherwise go here. There's no always in there because it's implied. However, if you want them back, then, add your feedback.
Add it to
removing,
Stately.io.
I think removing the word always makes a lot more sense if people are coming from flowchart background, because this means playing if time is left 0 immediately to go to pause. But yes, for people coming from the exit state background, we need to see always there. We need like an exit state view, like a sort of things that you turn on if you want to see the exit state terms in the editor, something like that.
Yeah,
I think
or we
Eric's in
can
favor.
write good tutorials. Yeah, Eric said flow diamonds makes perfect sense. And yeah, if we don't need to provide infinite options if we improve upon the design. We just have to help Xstate folks understand how these things translate. And we have got tutorials coming very shortly that will be inside of the studio. So we'll be able to there'll be a way that is much easier for you to understand how to do these concepts. And maybe we'll include some to help you if you're moving over from using Xstate, knowing which features correlate. In the future, I think we're going to have a lot more closeness in the terminology anyway, coming up with V5 and things like that. So it will improve together. So the terminology won't be so fragmented in that way. And Martin says he likes the new always. Thank you, Martin. What other groovy things should we show? Oh, I'll tell you what we can. Let me get a machine that actually works, or that I know works for sure. A really simple one, not that one. This is great. I'm just easily switching between my machines inside of my project. There's my parent state one. Yeah, that should work. So if I fit that to content, Simulate has had a redesign. It's subtle, but it is so much easier to understand what is going on now. The inspector shows you the event log as well, and you can simulate your state machine and look how nice those colors are. It's so much easier to read. It's so much easier to distinguish between the different states as well. Distinguish between the different states of simulation, not necessarily the different states in the machine, which are already pretty easy to distinguish. I feel like I sound like I've had too much caffeine at this point. Anyone else? What else should I demo?
Maybe show the share button since you're on a pro subscription, that you can
That's a
actually
great suggestion.
change the visibility.
So here we can copy a link to our machine, which is useful whether it's public or unlisted and you want to share the link with the rest of your team. And you can also update whether your project is public, unlisted, or private. It's important to note that this is your project, not just the machine. You're making the whole project public, unlisted, or private. And one of the things I really...
Sorry to cut you off, but also worth to note is that in the screen sharing bit, the drop-down menu you are seeing right now with the 3 options is not coming through because it's a native browser menu. But it's like a menu with 3 options, public, unlisted, and private.
Oh, yes, it isn't showing. Oh, yeah. Oh, I noticed that when I was screenshotting it earlier. Yeah, okay, there we go. You can see now, unlisted. So when it's unlisted, in the permissions details will tell you this project is not visible in the public registry. And we might need to update that copy so it says the Discover list or something. And if I select private, there we go. This project is only visible to you and your team. And now I'm going to go back and select public again. There we go. This project is visible to everyone. Select drop-downs are such a tricky thing in the web, and even when you're trying to share them publicly as well, it's like they resist. They want to hide themselves away. Right, John asks, will the planned update to the VS Code Inspector allow more than one visual editor to be displayed at the same time? Do you mean more than one machine or more than one tab, or what does the team think?
So I've been discussing this with Mateusz actually yesterday, that we're experimenting with this idea to discover and index all the machines that we can find in the source code of a project that you open in the VS Code, and kind of treat that as a single project and show all the machines that we found on the sidebar on the left. Something like that. So you would be able to switch between all the machines of your project, immediately as if they were part of the single project. And then this can play very nice with the GitHub integration that they're planning for Q4 or Q1 next year, which treats the GitHub repositories as a single project as well. So yes, there are plans.
Great. And Matthias asks, so is the current workflow to design these machines in the studio and then copy paste into the source code? Yes, that is the current workflow, isn't it, team?
One of the workflows, yeah. You could also use it directly in the extension. So
yes, that's a really good point.
When you use it in the extension, there is a bidirectional design thing there. So your workflow is either update the text and see the updates in the diagram, or just play around with the editor right in the VS Code and see the text being updated.
Yeah. Scott asks, he says, late to the party, for an individual, is it worth using Pro if you don't care too much about private projects? Well, right now, the Pro is private projects and teams as well. But in the future, we will be adding more Pro features. So it's really up to you. It's up to you about the features that you love. And we will continue improving the studio for everyone using it, whether you're paying or not. But the Pro features will always be the more special ones.
Yeah, so just a couple things to note here. Like, of course, if you're not using private machines, you might find the current feature set limited for individual usage. But of course, if you want to support us for only $15 a month, that's always greatly appreciated. I will say that the Pro features that are coming up are both for teams and individuals, and these include things like advanced export options, advanced auto layouts and partial auto layouts, different import options as well. Like if you have your own private repository, then it's going to work with that when we have the GitHub integration, and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, these features are going to benefit individuals as well as teams, but also this $15 a month price is pretty much going to be our lowest price. We, anticipate hopefully in the future, we'll be raising the price more, and you have a 1 month free trial.
Plus, worth mentioning that if you're a Pro user, you get the priority support from the Stately team.
Yes. That's important.
Yeah, so Pro users can sign up to our special forum and they will be able to get priority support. The information on how to do that is included in the email when you sign up for a Pro account. Eric says, do we have Open Graph image PNGs for share URLs yet? Winky face. I think, Fazad, you'll be the one to badger for that eventually, won't you? It's definitely on the cards.
Yes, actually, the Vercel team has recently open sourced a tool that helps with that a lot. I don't remember its name, but it generates Open Graph metadata and a screenshot based on HTML and CSS, which helps
also,
which will be really cool.
Honors does have a proof of concept where he has implemented this already, so it might be coming sooner.
I can't wait for this. I love it when you share something in any platform and you get the little preview. It's really helpful. Very good for people who are too lazy to click through on the links as well. Right. Lots of feedback. It's jumping. Switching between machines inside my source code sounds amazing. It will be. Absolutely. And John says, building parent and child machines simultaneously would be easier being able to see both side by side. That's a really good use case. Andre asks, any plans for JetBrains integration? I know that we are thinking about supporting more code editors in the future, aren't we, folks?
Yeah, I could maybe pitch in here. I mean, I've been researching it a little bit because JetBrains is working hard on a new editor, which is called Fleet. And they've just opened a public preview for it. So go try it if you haven't yet. And we want to make sure that we don't spend too much time, since we're a small team, developing in a plugin format that will be outdated soon. But as my daily driver, I usually actually use JetBrains IDEs. So I am pushing for it internally, at least. I mean, we want to support as much as many editors as possible. And for the initial run, we've made it so that you can use VS Code only for visualization. So we'll update the diagram when you edit files outside VS Code, which wasn't the case before. So now you can use any editor you want and still just use VS Code for the visual part.
Yeah, so we've already got that initial step. And I think you've written about that. We've got that written up on the blog as well, if you want to know more information about it. The blog, of course, being, she's got a URL somewhere, stately.ai/blog. You probably could have guessed that one. I don't know if I needed a banner for it. Martin said, I never received that email when signing up, or it's after when the free trial is over. I think, Martin, that you might have hit a bug there. If you want to let one of us know, or we'll follow up with you later and make sure that you have all of that information.
Well, you're a pro user, so try the priority support.
Somebody
haven't
got
the link.
He hasn't got the link to the
So-
priority support. That's the problem.
I know that's the.
Yeah, you should have gotten an
Probably.
email, even when you signed up, not only after the trial, but already.
It's a
so-
feature. It's a
Yeah.
feature.
Don't listen to the
Yeah.
Joker on the team. You can guess who that is. Do we plan for the inspector to use the same design as the editor?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we want to make things consistent, I think.
Yeah, we still have a long way to go before that, like getting full XState parity into there. But we already have the technology to communicate between the browser and the editor. So we're just going to be ripping those parts out of the current XState viz and moving it into the editor so that you could do all of that within the same platform or the same location. Let's say the same platform. Yeah.
I think the ultimate goal here that we're trying to aim for is to embed the visualizer, the current visualizer, and the inspector right into the editor as different views. So you never leave the application.
Yeah, make it easy as possible to do everything that you need to do without having to go anywhere else. Now, team, is there anything else that we wanted to make sure that we mentioned today in terms of Stately Studio 1.0?
I couldn't help but noticing that, Laura, you were using the material for the tutorials or the help panel that's going to soon be merged into the editor as different state machines in your project. So the state machines that you were demoing today are the material for the tutorials. So I was thinking maybe we could also provide a state machine version of it instead of the text, so people can pull the state machine, like the help state machines there for understanding.
As the example tutorial machines,
Yeah.
or
The example tutorials
state
machines, yeah.
machines for the tutorials themselves.
No,
We
the
can
ones
get
that
so
you were
meta with
demoing.
this.
Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely. That is why I've already made them public in the Stately team. So you should be able to find them on the Discover if you search for Laura Kalbag and any concept that you're trying to understand in state machines. I may have covered quite a few of them. You'll also find a lot of messy machines that I've made, as I realized the other day when Kevin asked me if my machines were public. And there's some test machines I've been making whilst testing. So you don't want to click on any of those. There are a lot of messy machines out there. I need to go on a cleanup mission. But yeah, I could also maybe make a state machine for the tutorials as well. It would be really meta, like step by step, using a state machine, how to use the tools within the Stately Studio. I wonder how many levels deep I could get. It would be like state machine inception.
Well, we could even have a button that has the tutorial state machine open in its current configuration, like from a button in the tutorial, because it's in the side panel. So you just click the button, you see exactly what you're talking about. And the next chapter, you click the button, it replaces that. That's an idea.
That's a really cool idea. Yeah. And right now you will just be able to, I'll maybe get links inside the tutorials to the machines that I've shown in the examples. And so you can just go straight to them and play with them if you like, fork them and do what you want with them. I'm also recorded videos for all the tutorials as well. So if you're a video kind of fan, we'll also have video versions as well. I was going to show you actually, I have a mega machine that I think Kevin saw earlier. that. Where is my mega machine? This is the machine where I attempted to, it's a little bit broken at the moment, but I attempted to map pretty much everything that you could do in one machine. And so with descriptions on how everything works as well. So it needs a little bit of a review, but that will be one that I'll share later so that everyone can have at it and just get an idea of all the different things that are possible with state machines.
I can see you have an unreachable state there.
Yeah, I have a few, but it's great
Just to
because there
explain
are
what
error.
unreachable states are.
Yeah, because there are error messages that tell me when I have unreachable states, and those are states that are not reachable by any transition existing in the state machine right now. So kind of orphan states, I guess, as you will. Often if you create a new state by just double clicking inside a parent state, you'll end up with states that have no transitions leading to them. And so that's a good, actually a really great way to debug your machine and to know if your application has unreachable states, and you will get a little error. And that error, I should show you. If I zoom right in, I think it's my history states that are a bit of a mess right now. But if I zoom right in, you'll be able to see that it actually tells you it's an unreachable state as well. So it does let you know what's wrong. It doesn't just show you an orange question mark. I think there's some great design on that. Oh, I love this. John says, lately as I've been listening to music, I visualize the lyrics as states and transitions in a state machine. That is when you know you've caught the bug.
Yes. Yes.
I hope that's not a disease, John.
That would be a really cool machine to make, though. Next song you listen to, make a machine for it. Now, before we head off, David, you're speaking at all kinds of things coming up, but we wanted to mention that you'll be at ORDEV.
Yes, that's right. So come find me and Honors as well. He's just a short train ride away. So.
And
yes.
ORDEV is a fantastic conference. I've been there before. I really enjoyed it. And it's Malmo is a wonderful city that I used to live in. And I think you will have a wonderful time there. They're great people and it's a lovely place to be. You'll absolutely enjoy it. Oh, gosh, more comments coming in. Oh, okay. Just comments from the team. Oh, here we go. Florian says, are there plans to merge the inspector with the editor in the extension so that I can edit a state machine and then inspect it when it's running in a debugger instance? I think we kind of covered that earlier, didn't we? That essentially, yes, the plan is that you'll be able to do everything that you can do right now.
I can confidently say that anything good feature you can think of right now is planned already for the next 5 years.
It's just a case of when, and that is where the stately AI.canny.io board comes in handy, because it will let you know whether something is planned or whether it is in progress or whether we've even completed it already. So that's a great place. And if you have a feature request, do go on there. If there's a feature you really care about, please upvote it. We do use the number of upvotes to help us prioritize what to work on next. So your input is really much appreciated in that. Matthias says, I think it would be great if the Stately team could provide some sort of style guide on how to name states, events, and transitions. That's a really cool idea. I can definitely see us do that.
Yeah, and we're going to be having more streams where we model different types of flows, which I guess we should get in the habit of calling them flows too, just so we don't scare people with state machines. But,
absolutely.
Yeah. Right, but yeah, Farzad and I have done a couple, and I think Laura and Kevin are going to do another one, and we're just going to be sharing our thought process, and of course also our naming process, etc. Because names do actually play an important part in thinking about how you model your application logic. So this would be a really good thing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if you compare even the different styles of the team themselves. Like, we all do things in a slightly different way. If you look at my machines, I'm favor a lot of lowercase text, space separated names. I want it to be really, really readable. Whereas a lot of other people write things in a more code influenced way if they're coming from a background with a lot more XState experience.
Just one more comment here, also by John Lombardo, about internal events. You see it there?
Let me try and find it. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So John said, oh, I noticed that internal events like state.update can't be added in the editor. We are working towards parity with XState. So if there are things that you're noticing that you can't yet do that you can do in XState, trust us, that is coming. And that's coming pretty soon as well, isn't it, folks?
That's right.
Yeah, it's exactly as Farzad said. If there's a cool feature you want, trust us, we've got it planned. Right, anyone have any other questions that they want to ask us, or team, anything else that you wanted to mention before we wrap up for the day? It really has been a bumper one. We're running at almost 50 minutes at this point.
Wow.
I can just say that I shared the link in the comments to Laura's machines, like the project that included all the machines you demoed today. If you're
Oh,
curious
thank
to
you
check
so
it out,
much.
it's actually here.
That is
now
a really
soon-
long link. You're going to try and challenge me to read that now?
I hated that there's no name of the owner, like the hint of a name of the owner in the URL. Maybe we can work on that.
Hey, maybe
Yeah.
we could do custom URLs in the future.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a cool idea.
That's pro, yeah. That's $20 per month.
Maybe by that point, I'll want to show off my machines. I won't be so nervous about sharing them as well. I always worry that I've made mistakes. Though, to be fair, I have the errors will tell me if I've made too egregious a mistake. John said, oh, strangely, this project isn't visible on Laura's profile. How do you
we'll
mean
get
on my
into that.
profile? Yeah, we will get to that.
We have a current bug that we're working on with the search data. It's not updating like instantly right now.
Okay. John says, I've recently noticed that longer, more descriptive names works best for collaborative modeling, but other devs reading the machine prefer shouty case events and camel case actions. I think that's not uncommon as well. One of the benefits I'd say is also using descriptions. So if you do have devs that insist on having shouty case and camel case, you can always use the descriptions to write it in a more human readable way. I mean, not suggesting that developers aren't humans, but they often don't favor human readable.
I think we can blame Flux for those names. The events in the Flux architecture were like that, and they started the whole thing.
I mean, sometimes it makes it easy when you're reading through code to be able to distinguish just on case alone the difference between states and events. But if you're trying to introduce team members who might not be so comfortable with development, might be learning, might be project managers or designers, you want to try and prioritize things that everyone can read. Joseph asks, is anyone still using state tags?
They're super useful. State tags allow you to decouple the structure of your machine from what your application UI should actually be. So you don't have to be like, oh, what state path was that? foo.bar.pass. Like instead, it's like, oh, loading. Any loading state, I could give it a tag, and that's how I will display my loading UI, like a spinner or something like that. In the future, we will have state tag support in the editor. And also something I forgot to mention was the fact that we are also thinking about how users could style and actually add color to their state charts. And so tags might play a role in that too.
That's a cool idea, coupling up to something meaningful. And as Scott says, I always use tags. At the very least, I use a loading tag. And I know that Nick and I have lots of thoughts about color. One of the things we're not going to do is rush into it. We want to make sure that it's introduced in a way that the color is useful and meaningful and accessible, which is a big deal to me for sure. We want to make sure that we help you make good decisions with color. Different colors for states and events would help when I'm tired, says John. That's a cool idea. Yeah, things that make it easier for you to just identify things. And I also think that Nick is working towards making things easy to distinguish and more contrast and color in the studio overall, aren't you, Nick?
Yes, that's right. Now that we've done this launch and have kind of a baseline for the editor going forward, one of the things I'd love to work on next is revisiting, especially the grayscale, and not changing up a whole lot, but basically now we know what we need. So just kind of tweaking some values to make things a little clearer, but then also maybe making it a little more visually interesting, perhaps while keeping a kind of current kind of plain gray, because it goes so well with VS Code in the default theme, right? So maybe not necessarily throwing that out, but maybe also looking into how we could add color in addition.
Yeah, great. I know that developers love to have their own kind of color schemes going on a lot of the time for their code editors as well. So it'd be interesting to see how we might work with things like that. I think people are just, oh, here we go. Eric says, type safe state tags, nudge, nudge. And there are lots of other suggestions for some blink for aggressive states you don't want people to miss. Now, we will not be introducing the blink tag. That was a scourge on HTML, and we don't want it back. Thank you very much.
It still might work.
I'm sure it probably does. Yeah. I think it's technically deprecated, but it's still implemented in browsers, so you can still use it if you hate the people that look at your websites. Joseph saying +1 for type safe state tags as well. Well, I'm seeing a feature request in our future. You know, if you want to go to statelyai.canny.io and add it there and upvote it there, that will be something that we can pay attention to. Now, I think it's about time to wrap up. Anyone else there? Anything else?
Nope. Let's wrap it up. Final state.
Final state. I think we've all had enough of the sound of my voice. I mean, I certainly have. So, folks, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate all your questions, all your comments and feedback. It makes such a difference to these live streams having you all here. If you have any questions you want to ask us ahead of next week's office hours, I'm going to say now we are going to have an office hours next week. Even if I'm the only one there, it will be happening. And so if you have any questions you want to ask, you can tweet us, you can post it on LinkedIn, you can join our Discord. I haven't mentioned that today. That will be discord.gg/xstate, where we have a dedicated office hours channel. We've also got a new help forum in there if you want to look out for other people's questions or get any questions answered by the community yourself. Hopefully that should be a better format, easier to find responses and things than Discord threads were or Discord channels are, because that could be quite tricky to find previous discussions in there. And you can also, I'm trying to think of all the different platforms now. Did I say Twitter, LinkedIn? Yeah, I think that was all of them. So we will catch you next week. Thank you again so much for joining us. Try out the Stately Studio 1.0. You'll really enjoy it, I promise. See you later.